Confirm if you can see my screen. All right. Awesome. All right. Good evening, everybody, once again, and welcome to this session on mastering project management. We'll be talking about the power of PRINCE2 certification in your career growth as a project professional. To start with, I would just like to ask, because I want this to be as interactive as possible. So I'm just going to ask, how many people here are project managers or aspiring project managers? You can just say yes in the chat, or, respond with an emoji or some kind of reaction, just so I have an idea. I'm going to be needing your reactions, so please do respond. Okay. Okay, I see a couple of yeses, a couple of aspirants. Okay. I can see none here. Timothy, yes, I am. Yes, I am. All right, so I'm going to be asking a few questions as we go along, and I'm hoping that you'll be able to help us as we go. I can see Winifred. I see Timothy says aspiring. Aisha Brown. Oh, I know Aisha Brown. Good to see you. All right, without further ado, I'll just dive into what I have here real quick. A quick introduction, or just to set out what we're going to be talking about real quick. I'm just going to say something brief about myself, just so you know who's talking to you. I'm not sure we have the time to ask what everybody, does, and for everyone to introduce themselves, but perhaps maybe as we go along, if you're answering a question, you might just do well to tell us, what you currently do, and perhaps your background, and that'll be fine. All right, and then we'll just go ahead and talk a little bit about project management. I understand that quite a bit of you are already into project management and you already understand what project management is about. But for the benefit of the one or two people who are who might be, fairly new to the profession, I'll just say one or two things about what project management is, so that we can have a context, to our discussion, and so that everyone will be able to be carried along. It's going to be, like I said, interactive. It's going to be, it's not going to be a boring session. All right, so it's going to be light, and it's going to be like just chatting, and trying to understand what project management is in light of PRINCE2, and how to leverage on what PRINCE2 provides for you as a project professional. So we'll talk a little bit about what PRINCE2 is. We'll talk about the benefits of getting certified. We'll talk about how PRINCE2 certification will support your career growth. We'll talk about how to get started, and then we'll conclude. And if you have any questions, you'll be able to take it. In fact, if you do have questions along the line as we go, you can feel free to just drop in the chat or raise your hand or something, and we should be able to take it as we go. All right, so my name is Abayomi Ogundiya. If you're unable to pronounce it the way I'm pronouncing it, it's no worries at all. People have pronounced it in very many different ways before, so I'm quite used to that. I'm a project professional, obviously. I have an engineering background. I studied petroleum engineering. I worked for about 5 years in an oil and gas project, a construction project. Was a really huge project. That was my first exposure to working in a project setting, and it was a massive project, $20 billion project. And in fact, it's what you might even call a portfolio, because it has projects within the project, And then, you know, there will be subcontractors, there will be contractors who had subcontractors, and, you know, and on and on. And it was managed by an army of project managers, so at different levels. So, of course, I wouldn't be the project manager for such a project, because a project like that, for instance, uses what we call an EPC, which is an engineering procurement and a management consulting, or a project management consulting firm, you know, and there's going to be lots of project managers involved. And that was the setting in which I work. So it's like I was thrown into the deep end, you know, very early on. And after that, you know, I had a little bit of a stint in some IT projects. I also have a master's degree in project management, and obviously I'm PRINCE2 certified. Yeah, that's what qualifies me to be speaking with you. I've been a trainer since 2014. In fact, my first stab at professional trainings was in 2014, and started out doing not accredited courses, but training courses based on accredited, or based on some recognized professional certifications like PRINCE2. And in fact, I first got exposed to PRINCE2, I think it was in 2013. And then things like PMP as well, which I'm sure some of you know about as project management professionals. And I'm sure maybe for some of you who are in Nigeria, I think around that time, there was a little bit of a craze about health and safety courses as well. So all of those kind of things were the kind of things I was into. I did that for, you know, about a few months before I moved on to other things. And then, but I've been involved in some kind of training and development ever since, you know, maybe not full time, but something I've kept on doing over the years. So I'm also certified and accredited by PeopleCert, and PeopleCert is the only organization that provides PRINCE2 certification. So if anyone else tells you that, you know, they are getting certified, getting PRINCE2 certification from any other provider, that cannot be true. For instance, if you are going for Scrum, there are a few places you could get Scrum certification. So there's professional Scrum Master, there's certified Scrum Master, depending on whether you are getting it from scrum.org or Scrum Alliance. And there are other people who also, in fact, APM does a Scrum. PRINCE2, PeopleCert also does a Scrum. So there are many providers who offer Scrum training, for instance, and certifications. But there's only one organization that offers you PRINCE2, which is PeopleCert, and I'm accredited by them to train and to help get people certified. So you're in very good hands, in other words. I'm also the CEO of Aexpert UK, which is again a PeopleCert partner and accredited training organization. So we've gone through, you know, the rigorous process of getting accredited, you know, and meeting all the criteria to be able to ensure that we're able to provide excellent training for those who are intending. Anyway, that's a brief introduction about myself and my background. We're not here to talk about me, so I'm just going to move on to what we are here to do. If you are with me, please just let me know, say something in the chat. A reaction, let me know we are still together. All right, to start with, thank you for your responses. I see Abayomi and David responding. Thank you very much. To start with, I'm just going to ask a quick question. I'd like you to respond. You might want to put your response in the chat, or you might want to raise your hand and speak, whichever is most convenient for you. But I'd like to ask, what is a project? So just to start with, because we're talking about managing projects, project management, and getting certified. But if we are going to understand what project management is, we probably should understand what a project is in the first place. If you're managing something and you don't know what you're managing, then you probably don't know what you're doing. So anyone confident enough to tell us what a project is? So those of you, I have you in the chat. There's evidence to show that you are project managers. So you should be able to tell us what a project is. Anyone? We'll be here for a long time if you don't respond.
I can just say one that I think is a project.
Okay, please go ahead.
So, yeah, I think project is a specific task that you plan out and work on to achieve a goal, basically.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's correct. I see a response from Nonya, and you didn't tell us your name.
Oh, sorry, I'm Vivian.
Vivian. All right, thank you very much, Vivian. I see a response from Nonya. It says a project is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, and result. That is fantastic. Very correct. Theo says a project is a temporary task to create a product, modify a process, etc. You are all very correct. So it means that I can see all the other responses, but I'm just going to go ahead, just to save us some time. You're all very correct. There are some very important things that we must know about a project, things that characterize the project. And it doesn't matter how you say it, as long as you understand those defining characteristics of a project, you'll be able to identify a project. And part of the reason why we're talking about this is because you'll find that a lot of us, in one way or the other, we've been involved in projects. A lot of us have been involved in projects in one way or the other, perhaps not in a structured way, but we've been involved in projects. If you've gotten married and you have to plan your wedding, that's at least at some level, it's project management. You plan the event. It's a unique event. You've never done it before. All of those kind of things. So, and there are transferable skills. And part of this session is just to help you build confidence in your ability as a project manager or aspiring project manager, and to help you see that you really do have what it takes to be a project manager. And all you just need to do is to just structure the way you approach your project management and position yourself for the market. And that's part of the things that we're going to be talking about today. So according to PRINCE2, a project is a temporary organization that is created for the purpose of delivering one or more business products according to an agreed business case. Now, this is just plenty English, but just like what every one of you has said, there's some things that are important to note. It's temporary. A project does not go forever. It has a start date, it has a finish date. So the word temporary is important there. And the purpose is to deliver results. The result could be a product, it could be, and then as you go along, depending on the standard you are using. For instance, if you are, using PMP or PRINCE2 or, even IPMA, they all have their terminologies. But the important thing is for you to understand that, when you do a project, there is a goal. And the goal is to produce products, or services that helps you to, achieve some kind of benefit, which is what a business case talks about. And one of the important things about PRINCE2, as you learn, if you do decide to take the course, is that it is based on a continued justification of business case, which means that you want to be sure that what you are doing is going to provide some kind of benefit, a return on investment, or some positioning, or strategic advantage. So it could be a process improvement, it could be launching a new product or service, whatever it may be, but there are just important characteristics you need to know about what defines a project. And those things are change. We've talked about it being temporary. You are using it to introduce change into the organization, into the process, what you do. There's some level of uncertainty because it's the first time, you've never done it before. It's unique. Because it's unique means that it has uncertainties. If you've never done it before, you cannot say with 100% certainty how it's going to go. So a project has uncertainties, and that's part of the reason why we do risk management in project management, as a discipline within project management. And it's cross-functional because, you also have a dynamic team that works on the project. So a project is not conducted by one person. That's why we talked about a temporary organization. So you have a project manager, you have team managers, you have, depending again on the context, you might have business analysts, you might have data analysts, you might have subject matter experts, and what have you, working on the project, all working together to ensure that they produce, that outcome that's going to now lead to some kind of strategic advantage for the organization. I hope we're still together. Now, why is project management important? I think I'll just ask this question. Why are we forcing over the importance of project management? Anyone wants to give it a try? Let me stop sharing my screen so that perhaps I can see your faces. Oh, okay, well, you're not showing your faces, but I can see your names better. Why is project management important? Anyone care to give it a shot? Why is project management important? All right, Anyachi. You are still muted in case you are speaking.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Yeah, I think project management is important so as to be able to deliver value to customers or to an intended stakeholder.
All right. Thank you. But I'd like to follow up. So if there's no project management, does that mean that value cannot be delivered? Just thinking through your response. Project Pantheon. Well, that doesn't sound like a human being's name. Sounds like a project name. But perhaps your name is Project and your surname is Pantheon. Says a project has a start and finish date. Oh, that was a response to the old question. Project Savvy. To ensure project focus. And that's correct. That's correct. Ayachi, did you want to respond to my follow-up question?
No,
so if we go ahead.
I said no. I said it's a legacy hand. I said
okay. Okay. All right. I see Rashida. Why is project management important?
Okay, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I think project management helps create focus and also ensure efficiency, right? It helps us to make sure that we are following our plan in order to get the desired result, as well as ensuring that we maximize the available resources enough to get the result as well. That's what I think.
Awesome. And you are correct. And the reason why I was asking follow-up questions was just to really underscore our understanding, because sometimes we just say things and even though they are correct, sometimes we haven't thought through them. And that's why I was probing further, Does that mean that if we do not have project management, we cannot get these, these things that we're talking about? And I'll just, just to save us some time, I think there's a long response here I want to read first before I say what I want to say. From Abayomi Williams, it says, project management is important as it helps in organizing tasks and resources. It ensures that everyone knows what needs to be done, when it needs to be done, and who is responsible for it. It minimizes confusion and keeps the project on track. Absolutely, absolutely correct. And so, like I said, I was probing because it is important to have a deep understanding. Now, over the years, again, based on the where you are getting your statistics from, the rate of failure of projects have been quite high, depending again on the kind of project, whether it's a small project or a large project, and then based again on your definition of what a successful project is. And there's a lot of academic debate going on, about, what is what, and that's academics, that's what they do, and I'm not going to bore you with all of that. But there's the statistics go from as low as saying only 10% of projects succeed to about, say, 76% of projects. But the point is that there is, indications of high failure rates of projects, which costs, annually billions and billions and billions of pounds, in failed projects or in reworks or in some kind of disadvantage, when projects are not managed properly. Now, like I said before, all of us, or at least most of us, I even want to say all of us, have been involved in project management, in one way or the other, perhaps not in a professional capacity, but, you've managed, a unique, the delivery of a unique outcome before, and which means that you have managed a project. But what differentiates you from someone who is a professional project manager is the fact that those people are able to use best practice that ensures that the project benefits are delivered. So when a proper project management approach is being used, the likelihood of success of the project increases. And that's key, to have in mind. It is the reason why we want to ensure that we are managing our project, in a way that has been tested and tried and has been shown to be, a best practice. So, like, most of these things I have here, you guys have said already. Project management enhances project success, and that was, like the cornerstone, the anchor point, proper project management enhances project success, and every other thing falls under this. So, it reduces complexity, because you're able to break things down and bring some kind of clarity into what you are doing. It also optimizes risk assessment and mitigation, because again, when there is structure, there is transparency, and when there's transparency, inherently risk reduces. Now, I cannot go into details of some of these things, but for instance, if you take an agile course, for instance, one of the pillars, is transparency. And what transparency does for you is that it helps everybody to know what's going on, And when everybody knows what is going on, things like miscommunication, and that is one of the biggest causes of project failures, is miscommunication. But when things are properly laid out and there's a structured way and everybody knows what everybody's doing and how, they're supposed to approach things, there's that transparency, there's clarity, there's reduced complexity, which means that projects are more likely to succeed. Project management also provides repeatable, scalable steps. I've mentioned that it helps to deliver quality and compliance, because part of project management is also quality management, and it's one of the things that you learn. If you do take the PRINCE2 course, we'll go in depth into how to do all of these things. It saves you time, it saves money, because when you start, going out of scope, or you start missing your timeline, or your schedules, you start having overruns in your schedule, your budget's also going to go over, most likely, so you're able to save time and money if you are able to manage, apply proper project management principles, best practice. This helps you to be able to save time, save money. And for most organizations, this is bottom line. This is how they measure success, which you talked about earlier on, saving time, saving money. And it also facilitates defined roles and responsibilities, like one of you have mentioned, and like we've said, it improves efficiency. So project management is really important because it helps us to be able to get more for the effort, for the time, for the money that we invest in our projects. So it's really something that helps you to make the most of what you have. And that's why project management is so important. And now to some trends in the profession. Based on some research in the recent years, there's been a widening gap between employers' need for skilled project managers and the availability of professionals to fill the gaps. Every day, project management roles are coming up, and there's the widening gap between those who are qualified and skilled to fill those roles and the need within the market, which is good. When demand is more than supply, the laws of economics, market forces, what happens? Price goes up. So first of all, it just means that there's more jobs to pick up, less competition, and people are able to land more roles, or land roles more easily than when the market is tight. Over the next few years, there's a projection that by 2027, globally, 87.7 million individuals will be working in project-related roles, which is projecting growth again in that space, which means that if you are looking to get into project management, you are not doing badly at all. It's very recommended. The global economy has become more project-oriented. And if you are a project professional, or you are interested in project management, and you are a keen observer, you would have noticed this. A lot of work these days are now project oriented. People organize their work so much so that there are things coming up, for instance, things like DevOps is really like merging. Well, that's in the IT sector, but the same logic applies in other industries as well. Where you are doing what was normally have been called a project. Where you're developing a product. And then there's the operational aspect, which is business as usual. And merging and fusing those things together, and that's where you have something like DevOps, where development and operations are working hand in hand. And so it means that that project management function is being laced into the operational dynamics of most organizations. So in one way or the other, almost every organization these days, are working in a project-oriented ways, especially when we start talking about things like agile working. So again, having project management skills. So having project management skills doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be a project manager. For instance, you could be a business analyst. I know a lot of business analysts that are doing project management work. So sometimes the title of the job might not exactly be project manager or project whatever. It might be something else completely, it might be called a delivery manager, for instance, or it might even just be called a manager of something, or a business analyst, or even a data analyst, and you still have to do, or a team lead, or a, supervisor or something, but you still will need to have project management, skills. And beyond that, because a lot of organizations are working in a project-oriented fashion, there is that need for people, in the workplace to understand the project management terminologies so that there's going to be a fluid communication. And like we said earlier, miscommunication, or failure of communication is one of the biggest reasons why projects, fail or have challenges. So having that common terminology and language, helps you to perform better in the workplace, even if you are not a project manager by title, but you could be a project professional without being a project manager, if you understand what I'm saying. I hope everyone is still with me. Okay. If you are, just let me know in the chats that we are still together. All right. Thank you, Nanya. Okay, so thank you, Abiodun, and everyone else. The future is bright for project professionals. That's what we're saying in essence. So if you are thinking of getting into project management, or you're in project management and you're thinking of pressing forward into project management, you are in good company. All right. Now, very quickly to what is PRINCE2. I probably have to move quicker so that we won't be too pressed for time. What is PRINCE2? Does anyone know what PRINCE2 stands for, or what PRINCE2 is? Anyone? Somebody might just win something.
Project in a controlled environment.
Excellent. And who was that?
Winifred.
All right. Thank you very much, Winifred. So it's projects in controlled environment, and that's very correct. It is a project management methodology developed by the Organization for Government Commerce, the UK Government Commerce. So the project PRINCE2 has something that distinguishes it from one of the main other, what I say, certification that it's compared with. Yeah, that's a good way to say it. So for instance, a lot of people ask questions about PRINCE2, and they ask questions about PMP, for instance. And there's a very important difference between PRINCE2 and PMP. PRINCE2 is a project management methodology, and perhaps I'll talk a little bit about what that means. Whereas PMP is a body of knowledge. So what PMP is it just tells you, oh, if you're going to be a good project manager, you need to understand, X, Y, Z. These are the areas where you need to have skill and understanding, perhaps maybe in risk management, in quality control. You need to have understanding in, how to manage business case, how to do. So it just gives you a lot of theory about what you need to know. However, PRINCE2, being a methodology, is an already structured, is like a template. I think that's a good way to say it. PRINCE2 is a template, which means that it is easy for anyone to apply PRINCE2. It is very flexible, very adaptable, it's very scalable, very tailorable, which means that anyone can take PRINCE2. In fact, for most of us who are here, especially if you're in the UK, being that this is the most popular project management methodology, in the UK, you would work with PRINCE2 or some tailored version of PRINCE2 in one way or the other. Most organizations, even if they do not acknowledge that they are using PRINCE2, a lot of what a lot of projects do have been influenced in one way or the other, perhaps in their documentation or in their processes, or even terminology has been influenced by PRINCE2. So PRINCE2 is like a template that anyone can take, and it helps you instantly to structure and to run your project. So if you understand the key things that needs to be understood in PRINCE2, you'll be able to manage your projects quite well. So it is a structured method for managing projects, and it is flexible, it's adaptable, it's scalable, it's tailorable. It is not a body of knowledge. Like I said, it is not an exhaustive list of project techniques, which means that it doesn't tell you that. So if it tells you, if you're talking about say something like end value management, for instance, it doesn't, or maybe in your business case, for instance, you want to do investment analysis. It doesn't tell you, to use, say, MVP for ROI, like return on investment. It doesn't tell you, that's a specific technique, for evaluating your investment, or net present value, or whatever. It doesn't tell you to use any of those techniques in particular, but it just lets you know that, okay, in order for you to go ahead with a project, you have to have a justifiable business case. It means that you have to evaluate. So, but you choose your technique, the technique you are going to use, but what you need to do, what the template prescribes for you, is that at this stage of your project, you need to do an evaluation of your investment so that you know whether it is worth doing in the first place or not. And then the technique you decide to use, of course, you will find some suggestions even within the PRINCE2 method itself, but it is not an exhaustive list. So it's important to understand that you find that there are other things out there, and that's part of the reason why it is flexible and scalable, because it allows you to be able to incorporate, cutting edge techniques. For instance, if you are really into project management and risk management, for instance, you know that with the advent of AI and all of those things, there is, at the cutting edge now, there's this ongoing conversation about whether risk management as we know it, whether it's really delivering on its promise, or whether it's something that should be, completely reimagined. And people are beginning to talk about things like variance analysis rather than, what's it called now? Rather than the traditional risk management. And that's a question of technique. So if you do find, based on your own evaluation, that you want to do variance analysis rather than doing RAIDs log, or maintaining a a risk register, you know, and all of those kind of things. If you decide that, oh, I want to do variance analysis instead, you know, in order to manage the uncertainties, you know, that are involved in my project, PRINCE2 allows you to do that. So you're able to bring in techniques, you know, from here and there and plug it into that and really make it a robust method, you know, that suits your particular project context. It's not tied to any industry, so you can use it in IT, you can use it in construction, you can use it in healthcare, you can use it in digital transformation projects, you can use it in HR projects, you know, and the list goes on and on. So it's a very flexible project management methodology, and that is why it is so valuable. Over 1 million professionals the world over favor PRINCE2 as a certification. So briefly, I'll just talk about the levels of certification, and there are not many levels. It's just 2 levels to the PRINCE2 certification. And the first is the foundation level for PRINCE2, and that's where you start. That's where most people start. This is focused on your ability to recall and understand essential PRINCE2 concepts. And I'm going to speak a little bit about you know, the structure of PRINCE2, you know, how it is approached and how you are going to learn the method. So you need to be able to remember what you learn so that you, for the purpose of application, obviously, and you need to be able to show understanding in order for you to be able to obtain your foundation level certification for PRINCE2. And there is the practitioner level for PRINCE2, and that requires you to be able to analyze and to apply PRINCE2 concepts. So as for instance, if you're at foundation level, it means that the kind of thing you are doing is you're in an organization, and you know, perhaps the practitioner, somebody who's at practitioner level, a senior project manager, for instance, or you know, a PMO lead or something, you know, those are people who are tailoring. So at the practitioner level, that's what you're doing. You're tailoring the PRINCE2 method to your project context. So you are looking at the project that you are going to do, and you're saying, oh, I do not quite need, you know, this documentation, and so I'm going to take it out. And because of the constraint of resources, you know, this role and this role is going to be merged. But also you need to be able to understand what roles can be merged and what roles cannot be merged. You need to understand, you know, what can be tailored in and what should be, you know, held in place in order for it to continue to be a PRINCE2 project. And but at the foundation level, what you're just doing is just, you know, recalling, you know, roles, responsibilities, you know, practices, you know, how to do this, you know, how do you do your business case, how you do your project plan, you know, that's really a foundational level. It's really a solid, well-grounded foundation that helps you to be able to manage a project based on, you know, most likely based on an established way of handling a project. So you are going to an organization that already has some kind of way of working, and you're able to plug in, and you're able to, you know, hit the ground running because you have that understanding of PRINCE2 foundation. But at the practitioner level, you know, that comes with both experience and training. You know, you're able to analyze and be able to say, oh, you know, yes, even though the methodology says this, you know, we're going to tweak it in this way so that it's going to be able to deliver, you know, this kind of results, because that's what we want within or for this project. So the goal is, of course, to do your foundation, and especially if you are aspiring to be a project manager, to go on to do the practitioner level certification as well, because it opens you up to more opportunities. Now, like I said, just a very brief talk about what PRINCE2 entails. And this is a 16-hour course right here, just this diagram. So I'll attempt to do it in a few minutes, just to give an overview of what PRINCE2 is about. So everything that you learn in PRINCE2 is summarized in this diagram right here. So there are 5 integrated elements in PRINCE2. Everything you will learn in PRINCE2 is going to fall under one of these things. So it's either you're talking about your project context, or you're talking about processes, or you're talking about practices, or you're talking about principles, or you're talking about people. And the reason why people is in the middle is because people are central, to every successful project. And at the heart of the PRINCE2 methodology is the importance of people to projects. Now, you will learn very quickly, if you get involved in any kind of project, that if you are not able to manage people properly and the people dynamics within the project, if it's not working, every other thing falls apart. And that's why, PRINCE2 has added people. In fact, before last year, September, there were 4 elements in PRINCE2. So this is a new update to the PRINCE2 methodology, just about a year, since it was added. Of course, it was alluded to, and it was it was implied, in the way that it was communicated. But just to make the communication clearer, people has been added as an element of PRINCE2. And under the people element, you talk about things like change management, you talk about, team management, you talk about leadership and management, and you really get to understand, how to do all of those things. How do you manage change, in a way that, you're able to effectively deal with, resistance, which is natural with people, because projects are meant to introduce change, in one way or the other, a new product, a new service, a new feature, whatever it may be, a new process or an optimized process, whatever it may be, and if you do not have the support of people, that's where you talk about your stakeholders. If you do not have the support of people, it will be very, very, very difficult. Even within your team, if you have a team and people are not, they are not able to work together, then that project's not going to go anywhere. It's people that do the project, so people are central to the PRINCE2 method, and there's a bunch of things you're going to learn in there when you do take the course. Now, the other thing is the project context, and that talks about 5 important things actually. It talks about the organization context. It talks about the size of the organization or size of the project. It also talks about the delivery method. So for instance, let me just jump a little bit to processes, because it helps to understand what we mean by delivery method. For instance, in the PRINCE2 processes, there are 7 processes in PRINCE2, and I think the stages is what I want to talk about actually. So there are what you call management stages, and which is one of the principles in PRINCE2, which is to manage by stages. So in PRINCE2, you manage by stages. A PRINCE2 project has stages. So you have the initiation stage, you even have the starting of the project stage before you get to the initiation stage. And again, this can be called different things in different organizations, but it's the understanding that really matters, that in order for you to have, a successful project, there are certain things that must be done, and, it structures it for you in a certain way. For instance, it tells you what you must do in your starting of the project phase. That's where you're evaluating, is this thing really worth it or not? And then the initiation stage, you start putting plans together, and then you now get to the delivery stages, where you now start actually doing the work that you planned to do, at the initiation stage. So at that delivery stage, what you are doing is you are doing the actual work. So delivery method in your project context here is talking about, how you deliver the actual work. So for instance, if you're doing an IT project, for instance, there are a couple of, maybe agile methodologies that you could consider using as your delivery method, based on your project context, the kind of environment in which you're working, whether that's the best thing to do or not. So you could decide to go with maybe Scrum, for instance, or you could decide to go with extreme programming, or you could even do a mix. You are doing Kanban and Scrum. You could do scaled agile. Whatever it may be. Or you might just go ahead and do the traditional waterfall. In your delivery stages. But whatever it may be, all of those things you need to consider it when you talk about your project context. Yeah, just to move on real quick. Like I said, there are 7 of each of these things, 7 processes, 7 principles, and there are 7 practices. The principles in PRINCE2, they are the bedrock, the underlying understanding that you must have in order to be able to properly manage a project. And those principles, the first is ensuring continued business justification. So if a project is not going to deliver value, don't do it. That's what it just means, basically. So you ensure continued business justification. And under practices, it tells you how to do that. So you find that under practices, for instance, there's business case under practice. So under the practice underpin the principles. So the principles are an understanding, a mindset, that you use in managing your project. But practices then goes into the details of how you actually do those things. How you achieve the things that you desire in your principles. So principles like your value system. So it tells you a prescribed value system, for project manager if you want to have a successful project. So ensure continuous business justification. You should learn from experience, which means if you go to an organization, one of the first things you should do, if you are given a project, is to go into the history of that organization, see if they've done similar projects. If not, you can go outside the organization, to look for similar organizations that have done similar projects, learn from their experience. What are the kind of, in fact, that's one of the ways that you start identifying risks, that, these are the kind of problems that you might encounter. This is what has worked. There's no point reinventing the wheel. If something has worked, you can just reuse it, and that saves you a lot of time and effort. So yeah, learning from experience is another principle of PRINCE2. Then there's defined roles, responsibilities, and relationship. Like I said, there are some roles, for instance, in PRINCE2 that cannot be combined. For instance, you cannot be the project executive and the project manager at the same time. It's based on PRINCE2 methodology. That's a no-no, However, a project manager could also be a team manager, so that principle goes into explain all the nitty-gritties of that, so that when you get into your own project, you know how to deal with those things. And then it talks about management by stages, which I've alluded to earlier on. Projects are broken down into stages, and then it tells you what to do at the different stages. And also those things will be discussed under processes as well. So you see, that's why you see that there's these arrows pointing forward and backwards, to all these elements, and they're called integrated elements for a reason, because they all influence each other. So by the time you go through the entire thing, it just gives you a really robust understanding and develops an ecosystem of ideas in your mind, and helps you to be able to deliver your projects the way that it should. There's also the principle, which is managing by exception, which is really just a principle of delegation. It sounds exotic, but it's just delegation, which means that, for instance, a project manager manages the project on behalf of the project board. So there are things that the project board, gives you tolerances, within your project, So there is what you plan in your project, for instance. So perhaps, and there are 7 aspects, of project performance. When you start talking about cost, talking about time, talking about quality, talking about what else? There's sustainability. That one just got added in again, along with people. And all of those things that you look for, your risk, your issues, all of those things, they are aspects of performance. Those are like your KPIs that you use to measure your project. And so the project board gives you tolerances, and the tolerance basically is just an allowance of what's allowed for you to go over your plan. So when you do a business plan, you have your schedule. So you say, oh, this project is going to take 1 month. And you say, we're going to spend £10,000. And what else? You define your scope, you define your product quality, all of those things. But then you can also be given a tolerance so that you do not have to always go back to the project board. For instance, if you say you're going to spend £10,000 and they gave you a tolerance of, say, an extra 1,000, which is 10% tolerance on your budget. If you're managing the project and it looks like, oh, this project we're going to end up spending £500 extra, you don't need to go back to your project board. So that's what it means by managing by exception. So the only time when you get to go back to your project board to ask them, that what do we do now, is when you are going outside your tolerance. So if you had 10,000 in tolerance and you were going over it, you just put it back. You just have to go back to your project board, and that's when you start talking about raising exception reports, and then it might be approved, it might not, because you need to now reevaluate whether that tolerance is going to affect your business case. Is it still justifiable? If I'm going to spend this extra amount of money in order to execute this project, is this still justifiable? So that's, again, you see that all these things are interconnected. So again, I'm not trying to go into all the details of these things, but when you start talking about it, it's like clockwork. You just keep going. So yeah, there's that, and then I think I'll just list the rest just to save us some time. I've talked about managing by stages, managing by exception. There's a focus on products as well as a principle in PRINCE2. So it is important that you focus on the product that you are producing. So they're not focusing on activity. So your focus is not on activity, because sometimes, people get carried away with the activity of work and they do not think about, what they're actually producing. So, but in PRINCE2, it tells you to focus on the product, which is really about meeting quality expectations. And that, again, you do it under the quality practice, in practices. So, and then the final one is to tailor to suit your project. And that, usually will be somebody at practitioner level, perhaps a senior project manager, that's going to do that. Okay, the next thing is practices. Again, I'm just going to list them real quick because I couldn't possibly explain them all. And if you're really interested, you can decide to take the course and then we'll get into all of the details. So there is business case practice, which shows you how to do a business case, how to maintain a business case, what you do with your business case throughout the project. So for instance, you do not just do a business case at the beginning of a project and then you just file it and keep it and forget about it. What do you do with it throughout the project? So you're going to learn all of that on that business case. So it's really hands-on. It helps you to understand, everything that needs to be done in order for a project to be successful. I just hope that we're still together, because I've been talking monologue for a while. Are we still together?
Yes, we're together.
And I hope I'm not boring you to death. No response to that one. I hope I'm not boring you. Any response to that? Okay, thank you, Abayomi. Thank you. That's very encouraging. All right. So I mentioned business case as a practice. There's organizing as a practice, how to organize your work, organize your projects as a practice. There's plans as a practice. So how to make business plan, your project plan, how to work on all the different kinds of plans that you have, the techniques, it gives you some of the techniques, how to apply the practice, the roles and the responsibilities. So for each of the practice, it tells you the roles and the responsibilities, who is responsible for what, for instance, who's responsible for the business case, who's responsible for the project plan, who's responsible for the, and then under plans, he also talks about quality plan, it talks about risk management plan, it talks about all the different plans, and how to do them, who's responsible for them, the documentation. And Prince2 also gives you templates, document templates. So if you do take the course, you get all of those things. So if you do get a job tomorrow and they ask you to do those things and they do not have the template, for instance, you can just take the Prince2 templates and, just work on it and you'll be good. All right. So there's quality as a practice, there's risk as a practice, which is risk management, issues as a practice, issue management. There's progress as a practice. And those are the practices in Prince2. Like I said, I'm just listing them, not explaining, because we do not have time to do that. And the last thing that I think I haven't touched here is the processes. Again, 7 processes. So there's starting up a project, there's directing the project, initiating a project, controlling a stage, managing stage boundary. There's managing product delivery and closing a project. Those are the 7 processes. And it tells you how to go through all of those things, in order to be able to deliver your project successfully. It tells you who's responsible. It tells you what practices, you need to use at what stages, and how the principles underline them and all of those things. So you get a really robust understanding about how to manage projects. So it's in depth. If you pay attention, if you do take the course and you pay attention, there's no way you will not be able to effectively manage a project afterwards. It's not possible. Okay, so it's really a good framework to understand. And even if you go to a place where they do not exactly use Prince2, that understanding that you take with you means that you'll be able to ask important questions and you'll be able to also adjust yourself in a way that you'll be productive in that environment that you find yourself in. All right. What are some of the key benefits of the Prince2 certification? I've already mentioned some of them while I was speaking. It helps you to improve communication and enable collaboration. So, like we said, if there's clarity, in everyone knows their roles, everyone knows their responsibility, everyone knows what needs to be done, when they need to be done, then it's a lot easier to be able to communicate. And because the language you're speaking is also the same, everyone is able to easily understand, because communication really is about understanding. If I speak to you and you do not understand what I'm saying, communication hasn't taken place. And if we do not speak a common language, and project management has its own language, okay? So, and if we do not speak a common language, then there's going to be problem in our communication, and that can be an issue, you know. But if you do follow the PRINCE2 method, you'll be able to have, you know, that language to be able to speak to, you know, fellow project professionals. It increases efficiency and avoids scope creep. You know, so we've talked about those things. You understand the aspects of project performance. You're able to manage them. The practices show you how to practically manage those things. And so you're able to deal with that. You're able to identify and mitigate risk, like we talked about under the learning from experience principle. And then there's the risk practice also that helps you to know how to do that, gives you the documentation, you know, and really tells you the roles and responsibilities, who's responsible for what. It also helps you to adopt clear governance with guidance from start to finish. This is more at the directing a project level, you know. So again, depending on the level where you are at, you know, project governance also is robust within the PRINCE2 method. So it helps you to be able to establish governance within your project to ensure that things are done the way that they ought to be done. It is globally established and recognized. So if you are using PRINCE2, like we said, in fact, it's the most used project management methodology in the world. So if you do learn, you know, the method, you're going to be positioning yourself in a good place, you know, to be able to work with other people, you know, effectively. It also improves your job opportunities and salary prospects. In fact, I have here what's it called? Some statistics about, you know, people who got salary increases, and I could not, you know, I couldn't include that in the slides, but you know, people have recorded, you know, as success stories. They've recorded, you know, promotions, getting new jobs, and you know, even better job satisfaction because of the proficiency that they gained. You know, they've recorded better job satisfaction, you know, and after they've taken PRINCE2. So it's real good stuff. Of course, you learn in-demand PM skills. So there's hardly anything that you need to do as a project manager that you will not be equipped to do, you know, when you take the PM the PRINCE2 course. And especially if you pair that with a program like what Nexus is doing for you, you know, giving you the opportunity to practice what you are learning. So there is, you know, the learning of it, and then there's the practice of it. If you're able to take those things back with you, you know, and put them into practice in your project, then that thing becomes part of you. So you gain those in-demand skills, and wherever you go, you find that you're able to shine, you know, because these are the things that you have practiced, you've learned them, you know, you've practiced them. It is flexible enough, you know, to apply across sectors. So it doesn't matter whether you are in say IT today, you might want to switch to, you know, a healthcare, you know, project management within the health sector, or maybe in construction or something else. PRINCE2 is very versatile and it can be applied across sectors. So it gives you a wide range, it gives you a big ocean to fish in, basically, right? So it does offer you that, which is really, really important. And just similar to these things is how PRINCE2 supports your career growth. And one of those things is that you stand out to employers. Over the past year, I've been following up with a couple of people, who have taken the PRINCE2 course, and every single one of them has reported, increased contact, on LinkedIn, for instance, from what are they called now? Recruiters, So for instance, a lot of jobs, you see, I think I saw a statistics. I think it was maybe something around 60 to 60 something, maybe 60% and above of jobs in the UK, require you to have a PRINCE2 certification. And, it's either maybe as essential or desirable, So it's a huge amount of rules out there that requires, or that prefers that you should have PRINCE2, which means that when those kind of people are searching, for instance, on LinkedIn for talent, your name is more likely to pop up, if you have a PRINCE2 certification. So not without prejudice to anything else, that you might have, it's an added advantage, I think around 50%, again, to another statistics, people recorded that they got jobs because they had in a particular survey because they had I think 54% that they got jobs because they had PRINCE2 certification. So it really does give you an edge, once everything has been said and done. So it makes you to stand out to employers, and it helps you to shine at interviews. Now, all the things I've been saying before, if you've gone through the process, you've gone through that detailed way of structuring your project. For instance, when you go to an interview and you have a scenario-based question and tell you, oh, tell me about a time when, blah, 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 which means that before you even go, in fact, one of my top tip for anybody, going for a job, in fact, if I don't have any tip for you, going for an interview, what I always say is think about, you should prepare projects, examples in your mind that you're going to tell, even if you don't do any other preparation. Okay, so top tip, you can write this down so that you don't forget it. You prepare examples. Nothing beats examples. Oh, we're out of time. Nothing beats examples, right? So you think through, and being able to give examples is not because you have done projects or you've not done projects before. It's really about whether you've thought about the things that you've done before. Because if you think very well, think carefully, you realize that almost all the questions that I'm going to ask you, there's something in your experience somewhere that you can use to answer that question. So it's about now using the right terminology and, shaping your experience into, that desired answer that they are looking for. And it is really about, for instance, when they start asking you about project management, being able to use the correct language, because they don't know you from anywhere. It's really being able to shine, so if you're able to use the correct language, you are able to talk about the practices and the processes in a way that it is used on a job. So pairing your PRINCE2 certification and say your experience from Nexus, for instance, putting all of that together, you're able to, outdo your peers when you go for an interview. So yeah, you think about it properly, and then you're able to structure it within, using that PRINCE2 methodology, and you're able to give really powerful responses when you go for an interview. And beyond, standing out to employers and shining at interviews, the main purpose is that you should excel on the job. So if you somehow, got found by interview, or you found by employers, or you found them, whether they found you or you found them, and you did well at the interview and you got the job. If you do get to the job and you're not able to perform, then those two things don't mean anything, So, but one of those things that, going through the certification training does for you is that, it really grills you and gives you that, again, and pairing it with the experience, it really works well. So it helps you to be able to do well when you get to the job. So there's really nothing that they want to bring your way that you have not done before, whether it's reports, whether it's is doing project plans, whether it's doing risk management plans or quality plans, or, it doesn't matter what it is, or people management, change management, whatever it is that they want to bring your way, you are already quite familiar with those things. And when they come your way, you are going to be able to excel on the job, which means that you are able to access even better opportunities, it won't be a good thing for anyone to get a job, and then shortly after they're saying, oh, you are not good enough. That won't be something like. So you really do want to make sure that you are well prepared in order to be able to give yourself that edge, at the workplace. And of course, there's global mobility. Like we've said, it's a world-renowned methodology, and you'll be able to blend in, into any environment that you find yourself. So it gives you that global mobility in the US, in the UK, in India, China, wherever, PRINCE2 is a well-recognized management method, project management methodology, and something that gives you that global mobility. So it's not restricted to one industry. It's not restricted to one location. It really cuts across board. Now, very quickly, I'm just going to say, what does it take to do the PRINCE2 certification? Like I said earlier, it's about a 16-hour course for the foundation. So, but of course, you won't do that in one day. And there are different ways to go about it, really, if you are interested. There's self-paced, there's instructor-led, which means that you go through a session where somebody's putting you through, and you find generally that instructor-led sessions are more expensive. And the reason is simple, because when you have an instructor-led session, they're able to go to the most difficult parts and the most essential parts of what you need to know and really bring that to light for you. And that really helps you. But however, some people prefer to, do a self-study and sit for the exam. So it's really about getting yourself prepared in one way or the other, whether it's self-study, whether you are working with an instructor, whether it's in person or online, however you want to do that, you're able to do that. And then you're able to go for your examination. Like I said, there's only one body that does the certification, okay, which is PeopleCert. So one way or the other, you need to be able to sit for your exams with PeopleCert. So like our organization, for instance, Aexpert, we're a partner with PeopleCert, so we're able to get you your exam and everything, use the approved training materials to ensure that you are getting trained the proper way, and also tell you what to expect in your exams. There are things like mock exam that you can take. There are sample questions and answers, which means you go through the entire list of questions that are, similar questions that you're going to find, which really have come from actual exam, But of course, it's unlikely that you find those same questions in exactly the same way. At the end of the day, it's still the same thing, but language may be changed, scenarios may be changed. And I didn't talk too much about foundation the other time. And one of the main differences. So when you take the foundation course, for instance, well, like I said, it's really about recalling, and what you understood from the PRINCE2 concepts. And when you do take the exam, it's going to be objectives. It's just really, do you remember what you learned, and do you understand it? If you understood it and you remember it, you're fine. I think it's 60 questions. You need to get 60%. So I think that's about 32 over 60 for you to pass. But at the practitioner level, what is going to happen is you're going to be given a scenario. It's going to be scenario based. So you're going to be given a scenario, tell you, okay, there's this project, they tell you, oh, these are the people working on the project, this is the project context, this is what, blah, blah, blah. Give you, that whole scenario. And then they begin to ask you question, like, okay, so if you were the project manager, what would you do in this situation? So that's more practical, is your ability to analyze, and to apply the principle. So you have a situation in your hand. What are you going to do? So that's how it differs. And this is 70 questions. And again, you need 60%. So I think that's around 42 over 70, that's to achieve a pass mark. But yeah, we do prepare our candidates, for the certification exam. So we take you through everything that you need to know in order to pass your exam. But more than that, we want you to succeed in your chosen career. So really, that's it with getting certified. So again, there's really huge benefits in taking the PRINCE2 certification, especially if you are combining it with a work experience scheme like what Nexus provides. It really positions you to be able to shine, both to the employers, in the market, and then at the interview stage, and really does position you to be able to excel when you get on the job. Improves your confidence level. For, like I said, a lot of people, you have those transferable skills. It's just helping you to think about them in the right way, helping you to organize, how you really work, in a way that is professional and is according to best practice. All right. So if you do want to take the course with us, I think we'll leave our contacts with well, you can look us up on our website. It's expertuk.com. It's very simple, Expert. So the Expert is spelled with an A. Otherwise, you could just reach out to
Abayomi, you can put your contact
BME.
In the chat.
Yeah. So that's Expert spelled with an A. All right, so I did use all of my time, so apologies for taking so much time, but thank you very much. It's been fantastic. Thank you very much.
I think that has been a very explosive session, and is that the vibe I'm getting from everyone as well? Did we enjoy this session? Let's appreciate Abayomi in the chat. He's really taking his time to. Someone says you've not told us how much. I think Abayomi, drop your number in the chat. Winifred, can you reach out to Abayomi?
All right.
So you know how much it is. Okay, so I think the details are now in the chat now. Yeah.
So that's email and phone number.
Yeah.
You can, write it down. So I didn't even have opportunity to take questions. I thought I would be able to, but I don't know if I...
Do we want to give like quick 6 minutes? We'll end at 11:40 if anyone has any question. But I think that was so explosive and explanatory. Yep. But does anyone have any burning question to ask? Let's see if there's anyone. Okay, I'm hearing silence, like proper silence.
It's deafening.
Okay, so I think we're good to go now. What happens if you don't pass that first try? Well,
Okay. Yeah, so there's something called take two. So if you are unsure of your of yourself before you take the exam, you can buy something called take two, which means you'll be able to take the exam a second time. But if you do train with us, I can almost guarantee that, it just not to say I guarantee, but really what I'm saying is I guarantee you are going to pass, because what's going to happen is this. You are going to be taking through the entire course, right? Every aspect. Like I said, it's 16 hours. What we did here is just, over 1 hour. And in fact, the main part where I was talking about the elements was just a few minutes, right? So we'll go into it in depth. And then you are going to have practice questions, which we will go through together. We'll answer together. If you are not getting it right, we will be able to know before you sit for your exam. So if you're having issues, we will know before you go for the exam. So it's really nothing to worry. That's why, like I said, the instructor-led sessions are somewhat better, because you have somebody there to guide you, hold your hand practically throughout the entire process. All right, so you really don't need to worry. But yeah, there's take two, just in case. Peace of mind, if you want.
okay.
So I have a question, please.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, I realized that PRINCE2 is basically for, like, is it only for IT environment? Because most of the job description I'm seeing for project management roles I'm seeing is on construction right now. So if I'm to maybe, like, I want to switch to construction, is it advisable for me to, like, compile the two, or is there a different certification for construction or project management?
Yeah, so in fact, in construction, there are also different kinds of construction. So we didn't get a chance to talk about it, but there is also something that's called specialism even within projects. So there's, like you said, there's construction projects, there's IT projects, there's digital transformation projects, there's HR projects, there are, all kinds of healthcare projects, there are, research based, in the academic environment kinds of projects. But project management is project management. Okay, there is subject matter expertise. We must acknowledge that. But project management is project management. And even in construction projects, PRINCE2 is valid. Like I said, PRINCE2 is flexible. It has that reach. It has that huge, scope, that it can accommodate. So it doesn't matter whether it's construction or whether it's IT. However, like I said, it doesn't mean that there are no other things that you can do to better position yourself for a construction role. So there might be other certifications, other preparations that you might need to make just to make yourself better prepared. But it's going to be role specific. If you know exactly what it is that you are going for, you can then know that, oh, okay, perhaps, I should be going for this thing extra. But in terms of getting a general certification, I don't think anything beats PRINCE2 for project management. If you're talking about just a general certification, that works for almost any industry, nothing actually, beats PRINCE2. Yeah. Hope that answered the question.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So I think it's good to end you on this note. So this recording will be available on the YouTube page. I'm sure a lot of other people will catch up on it, and you probably have people reaching out to you from there as well. But yeah, thank you so much for today's session, and yeah, I think we'll see you again.
All right, it's been a pleasure speaking with every one of you, and thanks to the audience. Also, you've been fantastic. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks everybody, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.